It is Friday, May 30th. Let's talk PlayStation. Welcome back, everyone, to another Night Rain episode of LTPS. As always, let's begin with our PS Plus reminder. This is your final warning for the May games before they go away, so get that done. This coming Tuesday on June 3rd, we're getting 4 new games to replace them, and that would be NBA 2K25, PS4, PS5, Alone in the Dark PS5, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk for PS4, PS5, and also Destiny 2, The Final Shape for PS4 and PS5, which that content is available right now. The other 3 will go live on June 3rd, so it's kind of acting as a bonus game here, which I actually really like because it's only that thing I always say with sports games on Essential, where I really dislike when they do this. I'm sure a lot of people are probably happy with that, but I just find that annual sports games, usually you buy those if you know you're going to buy them right away every single year. That's just something you always do. So who is that really appealing to? That's always my methodology. So it's like if they're going to do that, make sure there's a bonus game on there so they are at least doing that. Otherwise, Bomb Rush, I know, is a really good spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, and Alone in the Dark is kind of whatever, so there's that. But this is a good segue to our first story here, which very much ties in with the new Days of Play promotion. So it is back, Sony's annual sale, and they have done this recently too, where we get some bonus PS Plus Extra and Premium games. So we do have a lineup here where one title is already live on PSN by the time you're watching this. So if you are a PS Plus Extra member, then Another Crab's Treasure for PS4, PS5 is available right now, so you can download that. That's also a huge recommendation from me. We actually gave that game away for Let's Talk Plus around the time the game came out, but it's just so goofy. You know, it's a Souls-like, and you don't really expect that kind of gameplay from the way it looks, but that's what I love about games like these, where they look a certain type of way and they don't take themselves too seriously, but you are a full-blown crab, and it plays like a Souls-like, which I really love. Available June 2nd, though, is the full version of Skull and Bones, so also the kind of game where, like, I could see why you maybe would not care about that, but hey, if you were curious, you'll have full access on June 2nd, even though there is a trial on PSN right now, so you could play it in some way, but now you'll have full access. And then available June 4th is Destiny 2, the Legacy Collection, so that's for PS4, PS5. That's like all the content up to where we are right now, basically, so you're getting the Final Shape and also the Legacy Collection. So basically, if you're an extra member, then you can get completely caught up on all this Destiny content, so not too bad there if you were looking to get back into Destiny. And then June 10th is Grand Theft Auto 3, the Definitive Edition, PS4, PS5. As for PlayStation Plus Premium, we have 2 PS1 games that are definitely padding out that sort of pitiful May lineup we had. So we have Myst and Riven, both available June 5th, which love to see that. Those are some OG PC, PS1 point-and-click games. Really some of the earliest ones that people tend to have fond memories with. So that is a genre where if you're not into those, then obviously it's an easy skip. But if you do like point-and-clicks, then you got to go back to, like, not where it all started, but for a lot of folks, that is some of those early games where they really got into the point-and-click genre. So cool to see those games on PlayStation Plus. But we do also have the more standard affair, like, sales for Days of Play as well. That's usually what the annual sale is. So in this case, I would say this is definitely a very good opportunity under the right context of maybe this is where you should buy some things that you were looking for as far as PS5 hardware, but also accessories and games as well. So here's a very quick breakdown on what's going on. So PlayStation 5 Slim consoles, you are going to get a Call of Duty Black Ops 6 bundle available right now. There's one for $399 and also $449 USD. So that's digital and disc edition consoles. So you're basically getting a value proposition with Black Ops 6 thrown in there as well. But PS5 Pro, the first time the console has been on sale, I wasn't entirely sure if they were going to discount this console, but it's $50 off. So not exactly a massive change. Doesn't, I think, really sell the console still in such a manner where if you were on the fence, then maybe this is not going to do it for you. But if you were thinking about it, now's a pretty good time. Everywhere else, though, you've got PSVR 2. That's another $50 off for both the standard and Horizon Call of the Mountain bundles. You've got $30 off for a DualSense Edge, $20 off for a standard DualSense, $20 off for the Access controller, and PS Plus members can save up to 33% off until June 11th, or rather, you can get a new membership for 12 months up to 33% off or you can upgrade your membership to get that full 33% off. So the up to is a big caveat. There are still discounts in place, but if you're looking for the full 33%, that's for new 12-month memberships, or if you're upgrading from an essential tier to round out the rest of your membership. Now, the context here, of course, is also tariffs for the U.S. So if you are in the U.S., it might be a very easy sell of going like, oh, okay, maybe you should buy all this stuff now in case prices do go up, since Sony has been very reluctant to increase prices here in this particular market. Having said that, it's the same story that we have said before, which is things are changing so rapidly, we still don't necessarily know what will happen. But to give you the latest news, which might very well be outdated by the time you're watching this, on Wednesday, we had the judgment from the U.S. Court of International Trade. They blocked the reciprocal tariffs. Seemed, all well and good. Hey, that's great news. Well, the following day, so just yesterday, we had the Federal Appeals Court agree to uphold those tariffs. So for the time being, the current administration can keep collecting those tariffs. So we are not out of the woods just yet, and to be frank, I feel like we're not going to be out of the woods until a full-blown new administration really comes in, and at least you're sort of you have an idea of what the next 4 years or so might end up looking like. But it's the same, circling conversation we tend to have about this topic. So it's just something where there's a lot of unknowns, uncertainties, many of which are out of Sony's control, but we see how they're trying to get around it. Having said all that, it's just a matter of, if there's anything in here you were looking for, now is probably a great time. The annual Days of Play sale was always a good time to buy stuff anyway, but I think it's just amplified a bit more given what's been going on lately. Anyway, moving on to some PlayStation Studio news, we have some not good updates for Fair Games. So this story broke like one day after LTPS last week, but it did come from courtesy of Sacred Symbols. So over there, Colin Moriarty did give some insight into what they've heard about the game. So they did have a scoop about that recent demo, or at least that sort of external hands-on that some people through PSN were able to do. So we're hearing that a pre-alpha was distributed through PSN under the name or the code name rather, Project Hearts, and so a very small selection of people got to play the game. That's our understanding of it right now. And so one of those people said it's a battle royale style game crossed over with an extraction shooter. So basically you get dropped into this urban environment in teams of 3 to 4, and you have to steal from these vaults, the whole stealing from the rich shtick that they're going with, but there's other crews, other teams that are in that map trying to get there first, and that's kind of where it all plays out. But the game has been described as super clunky, and feedback has just not really been that good, which you can sort of tie back to our story about Haven and that, well, Jade Raymond left the studio. We had 2 more step up to the plate to lead the studio. Sony, obviously in this position, from what we know, has not given up on the studio. So there must be enough there for them to try and maybe salvage the game. But given where we are, doesn't seem very good. I know Jeff Grubb's been mentioning a few times that there was that sort of, at least what we know of a possible internal delay, because they never put a release year on the game. But if it was expected later this year, it's sounding like the internal delay is now 2026. But is that really enough time to sort of, really make a huge U-turn for where the game is? I don't know. It's so hard to say given that there's no gameplay for it. We've not seen the gameplay. This small selection of users is a sort of mock review, mock test, and that stuff is very important because you do want to start doing that feedback loop with genuine players to maybe get a firm idea of, hey, is what we're doing going towards the right path here? And realistically, that's what I think Sony at this point really needs to start doing. Not to spend too much time again on the live service topic. I have said so many things regarding it. The one thing that I really feel firm on as far as how they sort of navigate it going forward is that they need to sort of walk away from how they've been making games historically. Sony is, or rather PlayStation Studios, is very boutique. That leans into the big AAA cinematic 9-figure budget single-player games that they're so well known for. These games come out, they're polished, they're gorgeous looking, they're narrative storytelling darlings, and that's all well and good, but that clearly is not working for the live service portion of the business, right? You can't necessarily just make Concord and not have a feedback loop in place to understand, is that really a game people want? Like, they've clearly, I think, learned from that, but I think they have to take that a step further of doing more of something maybe like this, which is putting a playable build out there to the public and letting that really dictate where these games go. But it seems very clear that when they've already canceled so many games in the live service category, I know it's so easy to look at that and go, oh my God, this is a complete disaster, and it is, but I always say, like, I would rather it be that and then move on, try and find that next game, that next gameplay loop, that next possible success. I would rather them do that than to actually release 12 Concords. So that's sort of where I fall on it. Fair Games is not looking good. I don't really know where they go from here, but from what we're hearing, yeah, it's not shaping up well. Moving on to a very minor update for PlayStation, finally getting back into mobile, but this time with San Diego and MLB The Show. So recently, a job listing was discovered in San Diego for a senior mobile product manager, and the applicant would be tasked with design, marketing, and production to make, quote, MLB The Show mobile an amazing game. So flat out saying that there is a mobile version of this game coming. They're also looking at ways to monetize it. I mean, you would think that if they are going to do this, it would be this sort of ongoing MLB mobile game. It wouldn't need new releases or anything. It would just be the same game, updated rosters, and a sort of seasonal update throughout the game and things like that. But it would be a scenario here where maybe, just maybe, this is the most realistic, successful mobile game the company could end up having. Because that's also been a portion of the business that they have been just taking so many L's on for a long time, not even so much the more recent live service adjacent thing as well. We can look back at PlayStation Suite, PlayStation Mobile, Run Sackboy Run, and then, of course, the more recent establishment of PlayStation Studios Mobile, and then spearheading Nicholas Sebastiani from Apple Arcade, and then them leaving, a lot of corporate turnover with this team and trying to establish it, then acquiring Savage Game Studios, them being renamed to Neon Koi, and then them getting shut down. They have had a very tough go of it in this segment as well. And it is one of those things where, much like live service, you may not want to hear this, but they should be trying to do it. And they have been, but like live service, it's been very turbulent, and they're just not getting anything out of it. I mean actually anything. At least with live service, they've got Helldivers 2. This has been just there's nothing successful. They can't even so much as get this corporate side of the business really up and running in a way that is truly satisfactory. So maybe MLB is the first one that makes the most sense. San Diego, I would assume it's that team that would be handling this. Maybe they can finally kick this thing off. Next up, Summer Game Fest 2025 is coming up very soon, June 6th, so actually 1 week away exactly, where the live show is going to begin 2 p.m. PT or 5 p.m. ET, and over 60 partners. And yes, as expected, PlayStation is a confirmed partner, so they will be there, and actually Xbox will be there too when they have their live show on Sunday as well. So between both events, we may see them make PlayStation relevant announcements. And then Kojima is going to be there too, of course, best buddies with Jeff Keighley there, but given the proximity to DS2, we might get a new trailer for that game, or they might also talk about OD, who knows. There's obviously a lot of unknowns, but just we're getting very close to that SGF season, so things are finally going to be said. More matter of what will be said. They don't bring, I mean, sometimes they bring a lot to a Jeff Keighley event, like 3-4 announcements, I think was the most we've ever seen in some cases. But usually it's at least one semi-notable thing. So, I mean, there's that. But considering we also just had a rumor about them having their own event just in June, and it's still up in the air on it being a showcase or state of play, I still think, keep expectations relatively low, so that could be a state of play, maybe very third-party focused. But I think we'll get at least one relevant PlayStation Studios announcement, either between SGF or this rumored state of play PlayStation event, whatever it ends up being as well. So with that in mind, a lot going on. I'm not sure what we'll do. Well, actually, I guess I do know. So with LTPS, it's going to be right on a Friday, we're not going to be able to cover SGF right away, because actually that's also a weekend where I will not be in town. So it's a little weird for me. I'm going to have to film out LTPS about 24 hours early, which means I might miss Thursday news stories as well. But where I end up going, like I'll probably just bring a camera and stuff just to, if there's some huge thing that happens, we'll film more of an impromptu off-site video and have a news discussion there as well. But either way, SGF is still going to be, at least I think they're always fun to watch. I know people love giving Jeff Keighley the business, but hey, I love those live streams. I love just watching video games. So with that in mind, I might end up talking to you even sooner than that on Saturday or Sunday or something, whatever the case is. Moving on to the PS4 exclusive, the Order 1886, where, if you remember from a few months back, we had one interview come out with Ben Hansen over at MinMax, where he was speaking with one of the Ready at Dawn co-founders, Andrea Pacino, and at the time, that was a really insightful interview because we learned so much about the game, its history, the troubled development, the relationship they had with Sony, and the studio history, and it was just a really good interview. But at the time, I thought, like, okay, maybe we're not going to hear much else about this game, or there's not much else that we need to learn. But there is still the other Ready at Dawn co-founder, Rue, where we had not heard from them in years, a really long time, ever since the acquisition from Facebook. But we did actually get a recent new interview where he was speaking with Julian Chiez over on their YouTube channel. And so, yeah, the one Ready at Dawn co-founder, Rue Weirasaria, they spilled more details on their plans for this game and franchise. So the original game was supposed to include bigger fights as well as multiplayer, but as we heard from Andrea, that was all scaled back since Sony got firm on that 2015 deadline. But 2 sequels were also planned. So the Order 1891 and also 1899. The third game never got to development, but apparently the second game did see a little bit of work, and he also planned out where the franchise was going to go, with stories going into the 20th century as well. So we got a little bit more context on exactly what they wanted to do beyond the initial 1886 game. So it was 1891 and 1899 with some stories for the 20th century as well, which is really cool. It's the same thing that we said back in that one discussion topic, though, about the original Andrea interview, and that, gosh, it's just one of those things where if Sony did give the game another shot, or rather give the studio a chance to do a sequel and do it right, where they have a little bit more time, can really flesh out certain aspects of the game that they really want it to build upon, and certainly flesh out the story as well, I think there's a really good chance that the game could have been something much bigger. But that was like the one thing that Andrea kept talking about, is that if they had just gotten a little bit better of a critical reception, they probably would have gotten that green light. In fact, Andrea, I believe that was his conviction at the time. He's like, I'm sure we would have had a sequel if we had just scored maybe in the 70s. But that's the issue. You know, Sony does care very much about their critical reception for their games, and for them, it just did not seem worth it. But there is some kind of alternate timeline out there where we maybe had another The Order, and perhaps they would have been able to get that shot. All right, moving on to some third-party news, beginning with MPFirst.com, where they recently put out a report about something going on with the BioShock IP. They've obtained info that something is going to be announced in the coming months, and that it will have some kind of role with Rapture, or Rapture will play a significant role, is how they're phrasing it. They're just not sure if it's the movie adaptation, which is going to be focused on Rapture, or if it's maybe a remake of the original game. Which, God, I'll tell you, I hope it's that, honestly. I mean, the movie adaptation, cool, I guess, especially given that certain adaptations lately have been a lot better than the ones from 10, 15, 20 years ago. And that's all well and good. Honestly, like, to be on the soapbox for a little bit, I would love a, like, super high budget remake of the original game, which, you know, it's so easy to sort of overlook that the game actually is indeed over 10 years old from the PS3 and 360 days, and it is still one of the, like, best games, in my opinion, that has ever been made. It's in my top 5 easy. It's just absolutely incredible world building, and it's actually still, like, it holds up so well as far as being very different, you know, it being a sort of like 12, 15 hours-ish, depending on how much time you spend with it, but a narrative campaign, which is a first-person shooter, and it has shooting in it, but it's also got the gameplay experimentation hook of using plasmids, but it's the world building, it's the story itself, it's the gameplay, everything about it fires on every cylinder. But because it is so good at the world building, Rapture is such a fascinating universe to be immersed in. And so I very selfishly would love a big budget remake of this game. So I'm in this complete opposite lane of like, oh, we don't need to be touching these PS3 360 games, especially if they already have, modern PS4 ports, which there is one. There is a remaster on PS4, and it's a great way to experience the game. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm being honest with myself, out of all the games that may or may not need a remake, I would take a BioShock 1 all day, every day. To see that game running in UE5 or something, and God forbid, I hope it's optimized UE5, but it could look really gorgeous. Let's move on to some Persona news here with the Persona 4 remake, which has been heavily rumored. It's kind of an open secret. There's the domain, and there's just, we don't cover the news often with third-party stuff, but it's been something where everyone expects Atlus will eventually get to Persona 4. What's funny is that very recently, a lot of the voice cast from Persona 4 Golden, they basically confirmed this by outright answering fan requests that, hey, I'm not going to be voicing in this game. That's how we learned about the game's existence, which, again, we all sort of expected it, but it is kind of funny that that's how it happened. So we had Yuri Lowenthal basically confirm that Persona 4 over on Blue Sky, they're not going to return for the remake to voice Yosuke. And he even said he might have begged to do it and they did not want him back. And then a few days later, we had Aaron Fitzgerald, who voices Chie in Golden. They said they were not asked to reprise the role either. And also, very hot news here, but Yukiko's voice actress as well, not coming back. Now, I know that with Persona 3 Reload, the whole cast was basically replaced, but the OG cast also had these cameo roles and certain spots that they would appear in the game. But I don't know, this is, I guess, another opportunity for me to at least get on the soapbox again here too. This is a complaint that I always, it drives me up a wall with the replacement of voice talent in games, especially when there is a very clear opportunity to still retain the voice talent when the actors themselves want to do it. I hate it. It's one of the hardest things for me to sort of get over as far as when a sequel comes out but the character sounds different, if it is a remaster or a remake, if there's something that's changed that is, to me, so integral to the experience and how you remember it. And I mean, I don't know. It is one of those things too where certain elements of Persona games, for example, we've had the voice talent replaced. To me, Chie is the Golden voice and not the 2008 voice. So it's splitting hairs in the grand scheme of things. There are people that play Persona 4 originally and didn't like the Golden voice. So I get it. If anything, that's arguably why it should always be as consistent as it can be throughout many different entries in a game. So it drives me up a wall. Does that mean I would not play the Persona 4 remake whenever the thing gets a formal announcement and it eventually ends up coming out? I mean, it probably wouldn't stop me from playing the game, but I would be lying if I said it doesn't really bother me that oftentimes we see the voice talent completely swapped out. Next up, Gearbox's Randy Pitchford did come out and make an apology over the real fans would try to spend $80 for a game if they really want it commentary that we talked about last week on LTPS. So over on Twitter, Randy kind of had a lot to say on this. It was a very long response, but the important snippet here is, and I quote, "I think my trying to shorthand that using the phrase real fans triggered some people, and I saw that it got inflated as if I was making some big statement. I wasn't. I was just trying to help someone who I thought was sincerely worried about us and looking out for us. And I could see that I was being pressed into the idea that I was taking the audience for granted, which is a super crappy look, but it was not at all my intent, and it does not reflect at all how I feel." Again, he said a lot in this post, so I don't think there's any sort of fast way to summarize it, but at least Randy, the very minimum, came out and wanted to reconcile with this very disconnected, out-of-touch comment that he made last week. It's one of those, again, read the room kind of situations. Does this make it better? No. Does it mean it's sincere? Not necessarily. I think it really is just more a matter of this is why a lot of things often go through PR, because even if he really did not mean to say this or for it to be taken a certain kind of way, damage is done, and it's like not the first time Randy has done this. So I mean, if anything, it's kind of shocking that he can oftentimes still end up saying these things without it going through PR. All right, moving on to The Last of Us HBO Season 2. We've got a lot going on here since the season finale from this past Sunday. So there's been not only a lot of debate going around between show viewers or people that played the game, but just also a lot of news coming out from Neil and Clegg doing interviews, them discussing their creative choices for the season. And also we have some early viewer data as well, which depending on where you've seen the headlines, there's definitely some bias baked in to sort of frame it a certain way. There is a full answer here that you need to get for context. So according to the Wrap, the episode finale brought in 3.7 million cross-platform viewers, and that is down from 8.2 million from the season 1 finale. Though HBO did comment on this, saying that it was expected to go up considering the Memorial Day weekend in the US, so that contributed to lower viewership in the US. But it's also important to note that overall season 2 viewership has nearly 37 million global viewers per episode, which for context on that, the season 1 premiere reached about 32 million viewers after 90 days. So it's not quite a one-to-one comparison, but it does illustrate that season 2, generally speaking, on a per episode basis, had a very big turnout that is comparable to season 1. So it's hard to say exactly how much bigger or not bigger the season grew, basically, but I think it's safe to say that viewership certainly stuck on even after episode 2, which at this point, this is where I will clarify full spoilers ahead, and more so full spoilers for the part 2 game as well, just so I have full freedom here to say what I can. If you have not played the game or watched the season 2, all of season 2, then you've been warned. I will be going over any of those things from this point on, but it seems pretty clear from episode 2, after Pedro Pascal's death, that the viewership was still quite strong and people wanted to see Ellie's story all the way through. And of course, we know it gets much crazier from that point on, going into season 3, which it seems like, yeah, that's going to be more than a year away, which is kind of insane. I actually feel pretty bad for any show-only viewers if you want to stick to only watching the show. Like, it's pretty brutal with these, like, sort of, it feels like a mini series in a way, and then you wait 2-something years for the next chapter, which is really annoying. What makes that more annoying in this context is that it seems like, yeah, they will be doing a season 4. We heard that from an HBO executive sometime last year, but now we're hearing it directly from showrunner Craig Mazin, so that's the one other story we can mention here. So he was speaking with Collider, and he did provide a quote here where he says, "I think there's a decent chance that season 3 will be longer than season 2, just because of the manner of that narrative and the opportunities it affords us are a little different. The thing about Joel's death is that it's so impactful. It's such a narrative nuclear bomb that it's hard to wander away from it. We can't really take a break and move off to the side and do a Bill and Frank story. I'm not sure that will necessarily be true for season 3. I think we'll have a little more room there. But certainly, there's no way to complete this narrative in a 3rd season. Hopefully, we'll earn our keep enough to come back and finish it in the 4th. That's the most likely outcome." So this is a weird comment, and I guess it kind of gets into like the main problem. Well, I don't know if it's the main problem, but it's certainly one that a lot of people tend to bring up with, season 1, but I think more so season 2, is the pacing of the show, right? You've got very strange choices, and I spent a lot of time talking about this with John on Click R3 for our separate review portions that we do. In fact, by the time this video goes up, I think our episode 6 and 7 full wrap-up review is going to be live on the Spawncast Network channel, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But the one thing I've been doing so much throughout the entire airing of the series is just really digesting way too many opinions for my own good. It's just been so fascinating to see this game and this franchise that I care so much about be adapted into live action, and it be, in my view, a genuine attempt at serving that story right, or doing right by that story, and that goes for season 2. I see what they were trying to do with so many different elements, but it's I'm reading so much from game players and also show-only viewers, which I think is really important, sort of an important perspective to have, since it's kind of easy, I think, for game players to not be, to sort of separate that emotion of like, oh, well, it wasn't like this, it wasn't like that. They moved this line around, they moved this event forward. It is going to be different. They're going to take liberties, and I always want it to be sort of mindful of that in my own perception of the show and how it was playing out. So I always wanted to like carefully follow some opinions from those that are only watching the show as well. But the pacing is still a bit weird, right? And that like they spent 3 days in Jackson, 3 episodes basically. Season 2 was only 7 episodes. This is a long game, and I think it's the right choice to do multiple seasons. But to do 3 days in Jackson, here's the thing. I'm seeing a lot of people complain about that. I don't think that was a problem. I think when you're doing a TV show and you're not going to have like hours of gameplay, which in essence is a lot of combat, and that's why it's not realistic to have, the show Ellie be John Wick in this case. Although I very much agree there should have been just a little more action. But because you're not doing all these gameplay segments, the show affords you the opportunity to look at the Jackson settlement. And I thought it was really cool to see the dynamics of Jackson and like the council vote and how that, has this through line all the way to that confrontation with Jesse about how he didn't vote at the council. I think those are all good show decisions that make sense. Having said that, you do one episode rather per day of Seattle, and that's where it's like, man, this feels super fast. And I feel like we could have easily done an episode on Hillcrest. We could have easily done an episode getting up to like the Jordan confrontation, and the Abby crew could have been the full crew to stay a little bit more truthful and give the show a little bit more breathing room to have some more action play out. On the flip side, like, you can see they've addressed the issues of like, oh, there's more infected. Absolutely, there's more infected in season 2. I appreciate that. I thought the attack on the Jackson settlement was like, even if it wasn't super relevant, which I think it actually was, it made for good TV. It was entertaining. All that stuff I think are good choices. Where they've lost the plot, and I see it with a lot of game players as Ellie feels nerfed. Why do they, make certain decisions with her characteristics, and why did she only kill one WLF soldier and then tortured Nora and accidentally sort of killing Mel and Owen? It's like there could have been just a handful of other deaths, not full-blown John Wick, just a few other deaths. Maybe be a little bit more forward on the motivated rage and not making it feel so much like a Dina show, but it did kind of come to a head in a manner that was a bit different from how the games did it. So like, I don't know, pacing wise for a possible season 4, that's where it's weird. You moved so fast on the Seattle portion. Now you're saying season 3 might be longer than season 2. But, we've already seen that you can do a day of Seattle in one episode. So that means that's 3 for Abby, maybe another one for a flashback series. Where the hell are these extra episodes and extra season coming from? Because the other weird thing is that, as I just explained for the Jackson settlement portion, I think you can do a season 4 in that Santa Barbara is only like 2 hours in the game. That's the perfect opportunity to do more with the show. Santa Barbara's like awesome. Like I think it'd be really cool to spend more time in that portion of the universe. Look at more of the Rattlers. Maybe an extra little conflict comes up. Maybe see the portion of Ellie getting there versus the perspective of Abby and Lev. So absolutely spend more time in Santa Barbara. But it's like, if that's season 4, how much of the farmhouse is in season 3, or is the farmhouse into season 4? How are you making season 3 longer with, again, the sort of established timeline you've already, or rather the established pacing that you've done in season 2? That's where, like, this, it's a weird comment to me. I don't know. I really do want to go back and replay the game, because it's been a while since I did replay the game, or play it for the first time, to be honest. I've only done one playthrough. I got to go back and get my platinum. Since the series airing, like, I've gone back and just watched all the scenes again, thumbed through, like, different gameplay sections just to catch some of that, ambient dialogue that comes up every so often. I really want to go back and do that second playthrough, because I'm just not seeing pacing-wise, like, what they're explaining here, unless they end up taking even more liberties to the point where, it's a lot different. Because the one thing you can't really say is that they, like, changed the story completely. They didn't. All the beats do eventually happen, in a very similar manner to the game. it's how they got there that I think is really up for debate. But I'm just going to leave it there. I don't want to spend that much more time. We've got the Click R3 review up. It should be up at this point, so you can go check out our long discussion on that as well. But yeah, it's a weird comment from Clegg. I don't know. I still really enjoyed Season 2. Was it better than the game to me? No. Was it better than Season 1? I would also say no. So that's kind of where I fall in the whole thing, but I did still thoroughly enjoy it, and I do look forward to Season 3 and the eventual Season 4. Now, to be honest, it is kind of a slow news week for PlayStation, but even if it were very busy, this was still going to be a story because it is incredibly hilarious, which is this Concord launch plaque from a former Firewalk employee. Turns out they didn't want it. Can't imagine why. But this launch plaque that they were given for being a part of the launch team, they decided to donate it to Goodwill, and it's now available on Goodwill's site. Their sort of bidding portion of the site, because if you don't know, Goodwill does do that. They'll auction stuff off on their site. And right now, at the time of filming, it's over $3,000. I don't know if that's like genuine bids, because like the thing is, it would not surprise me if it actually goes for that and somebody will pay to have it. Or it could very clearly just be people bidding it up because nobody actually does want it. But that is that is hilarious to see the launch plaque show up at a Goodwill. So somebody did not want this in their collection, or they weren't proud of it, or whatever the reason was. I'm not going to act like I know why they donated it, but that is not a good look for Concord and the history that is left on the industry, and it's certainly a big stain on PlayStation's on its past. Next up, this is more of a story that I would maybe not include if it was a very busy week, but it's not, so let's talk about it. Mark Cerny, the PS4, PS5, and Vita, and PS5 Pro, PS4 Pro, probably PlayStation 6, maybe even PlayStation 7. The system architect, Mark Cerny, he is a full-blown gamer. He oftentimes will show up on Twitter and talk about his recent platinum trophies, and he recently got the Balatro Platinum after 7 months and hundreds of hours. He's joined the 0.1% of players that have the Balatro Platinum. So Mark was gaming, folks. He was going nuts for the recent madness that has been Balatro. It's cool that like every so often Mark does pop up with a Platinum, and it's like, oh, that's what he's been doing with his free time, which I imagine he probably doesn't have much free time. So it's always interesting to see like what game does he choose to play in his free time and go for that Platinum. His profile does have a lot of Platinums. He does try to get his game time in when he can, and it's always very respectable when you see Mark come out and do a game like that. And it's definitely one of those things where you feel a sense of pride knowing that like he's the one leading the PlayStation hardware design team. Now, with all that said, it is time for Let's Talk Plus, the weekly Let's Talk PlayStation giveaway, where one of you can win a $10 PSN code. I would like to congratulate this viewer right here. I'll be contacting you very soon via email or X. And this time around, we have another game giveaway courtesy of Annapurna Interactive. This time, it is to a T. 3 copies for PlayStation 5. The game just came out. This is the latest game from Keita Takahashi, one of my favorite game creators, game designers out there. They made Katamari Damacy, Wadum, Nobi Nobi Boy, those very different, quirky, weird games. And this one is no different because it's based on this child stuck in a T-pose. It's insane. I love it. I've been watching this game ever since it was announced, and it recently came out on PlayStation 5. So you have a chance to win a code for this game. If you would like to win, follow the link down below or scan the QR code, and you just might too be living in a situation where you are stuck in a T-pose. I myself have not played the game just yet, but I can't wait to find out what exactly is going on because, gosh, I love anything this man makes, and the latest game is out now. Those are some of the stories from this past week that I wanted to talk about with you all, and our Tuesday video was a very long discussion topic, basically a podcast, going over my PS3, PSN digital collection, which is kind of a different spin on the sort of collection updates we do, or rather the full-blown collection showcase videos. I know I still have to do PS1, 2, and and PSP and Vita as well. I'm actually going to film those soon, so you'll finally get a more thorough, long talk on like every game that I own. And then coming up, we've got, the latest Click R3 episode is live right now, so you can go check that out. And again, as a reminder, the HBO wrap-up review for episodes 6 and 7 should also be live on the Spawncast Network channel as well. And then coming up, as I also said earlier, we will have LTPS on Friday, but that will not include SGF news, so we might do something over the weekend. Highly dependent, of course, depends on how things shake out news-wise, but that's basically it. So that concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me, and I will see you all next Friday.